we're at that stage now where all of the, preseason previews and picks are starting to come out. Typically you get them in early June so people can sort of sit with them, and then you'll get like a lot of them that'll come right before the season begins. And I found 10 random NFL NFC East previews, and all 10 had Philadelphia winning the division. That surprised the hell out of me. Like, I thought that going into this summer, when we started to get into, preview season, that Washington would be picked to win a division here and there. And maybe they still will be as we go through the rest of the summer and more of these come out. But I found literally 10. Some of them were really obscure, but all 10 had Philadelphia winning the division. This is a division that has not had a repeat winner since 2004, as we've discussed many times over the years. I think it's because of just how impressive Philadelphia was on their way to winning the Super Bowl, but specifically the last impression that we have of Philadelphia. And by the way, the last impression we have of Philadelphia versus Washington. Now, I will tell you, in all 10, Washington was picked to finish second. And then the Cowboys were picked to finish third. Actually, there was a couple where the Cowboys and Giants were jumbled up, with the Cowboys last, the Giants third. I know I've said this before in recent years, and it has nothing to do with anything about the way I feel about the Giants. I just think the Giants roster has been much better in recent years than their results. Their results have been have been essentially driven by quarterback play and injuries. And I don't know how much of an upgrade Russell Wilson is. I don't know if Jackson Dart ends up emerging as a starter, although everything you read out in New York is that they are very pleased with Russell Wilson, not only the player, but the leader. How about that? But this is a team that has a really good offensive line. They've got a budding and emerging super high-level star at wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. They have, I think, a very underrated from his rookie season, but, eyes to keep on at the beginning of the season, which starts here on September 7th. But Tyrone Tracy had a very quiet but very productive rookie season at running back. And then their defense, man, is loaded. Loaded. You got Dexter Lawrence. You got Brian Burns. They added, obviously, Abdul Carter. They've got guys like Okereke and McFadden. They are good on defense. I don't know what that means. I was looking at their schedule because I was like, and again, what do you know about a schedule? But if the teams they face to start the season are the teams we believe them to be, they start at Washington, at Dallas, and then come home for their home opener against the Chiefs, and then in week 4 play home against the Chargers. That is brutal. It's funny that two of the worst teams, at least in over-under counts heading into the year, have two of the most brutal starts you would ever think teams could have. Cleveland has the lowest over-under heading into the season at 4.5 wins. They open with Cincinnati at home, go to Baltimore in week 2, host the Packers in week 3, and then go to Detroit in week 4. Oh, and then it's Vikings, Steelers, Dolphins. I mean, even if you were looking for what's that team that has the best chance to go from last to first, because we see it all the time, in the NFL. Somebody comes out of nowhere. You look at the Giants and you look at the Browns and you're like, even if they are improved, and I'm not suggesting the Browns are improved, I do think the Giants are improved. But look at the brutal starts potentially. I mean, they may not be able to climb out of what the NFL schedule makers created for them to begin with. But back to sort of the NFC East previews. We may get people picking Washington as the summer goes along and towards the beginning of the season. But I'm surprised. I think Washington deserves some consideration for winning the division. They will have, I think, the best offense in the division. Philadelphia certainly is going to be able to run the football like they did last year. But I think overall, Washington will have the most dynamic, the most explosive, the most effective, the most efficient, best quarterbacked, maybe the best schemed up offense in the division. But there's no doubt that Washington's flaw, which people believe to be a flaw heading into next season, is what they are as a full team. Because defensively, not that good. And Philadelphia, loaded defensively, even with the players they lost, Milt Williams, Josh Sweat, etc. They just always seem to plug and move on with, comparable, if not better, younger players. The Cowboys have a chance to be better, I guess. I just I wouldn't trust Dallas as far as I can throw them. Who knows what kind of coach Schottenheimer is going to be? Who knows whether or not Dak Prescott can actually stay healthy? Who knows whether or not they can actually run the football? They added Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. They added Pickens, obviously, to go with CeeDee Lamb. It's funny because the three teams in the division that are not Washington should be good on defense. Philly, for sure. I think the Giants and Dallas, they're going to get Parsons signed. He showed up at minicamp even without his extension. You're going to get Parsons, along with, remember, they had a lot of injuries defensively last year. They lost Deron Bland for a big part of the season coming off that year in which he had all those pick sixes in 2023. You got Trayvon Diggs, who was hurt last year. They've got they brought back Dante Fowler Jr. That's where he landed, if you weren't sure. Dante Fowler Jr. back there. They drafted the kid from Boston College, Ezaraku. That'll be interesting to watch. And, you had some players last year that got hurt that were promising, etc. But I think Washington should be seriously considered to be a potential division winner. I mean, the history of the division plays into it. Not really. I mean, I think that is coincidence as much as anything else. You might say, well, these teams know each other so well. Their rivalries are so intense. It's just so hard to repeat as an NFC East champion. Philadelphia is still entering the 2025 season. In terms of overall roster, they've got the best roster in the NFL. That is close to fact. Don't you think, Max? I mean, am I missing somebody? Philadelphia, top to bottom, has the best roster in the NFL.
In terms of top to bottom, I do think you're right. Like
entering 2025.
Yeah, I guess you can't. I'm trying to think of like teams I would make a case for, and it's very tough. Like, because you can poke holes pretty much in any one that I'd bring up, but Eagles is just their O-line's dominant. They're deep at both wide receiver 1 and 2. I mean, you have the best running back in the league, and that defense, that secondary is just second to none. So yeah, roster building from that standpoint, yeah, Eagles are 1-1.
Yeah. The thing about the way they laid it out is we're not going to know really anything about what they look like against each other until very late in the season. And let's just hope, when you get to December 20th, their first meeting in the, third to last weekend of the season, that it's for something. That's going to be the key. Washington's just got to stay right there, with Philly. You never know how these seasons play out.